a lot of August.
Yeah, I've been kind of busy, and sometimes on the weekends and sometimes on Wednesdays. So
August.
I make the nets when I can.
That's good.
That's why I didn't sign up for any nets this month.
It's all good.
Well, I like keeping busy, that's for sure.
It's better than, it's better than having nothing to do.
Yeah, so far that hasn't been a problem.
Here, baby. Smudge. Yeah, smudge. Say hello to Smudge.
Here's a cute
Oh, hi,
dog.
Smudge.
This is the big boy of our three cats.
So
I don't
that's
know
your
why we
cat
need three
control.
cats, but we have three cats. What can I tell you? He's the big boy now.
He is a big one.
We have two of the cats down here segregated from the new dog that we just got. So she's only been here for 2 weeks, still working her way through the family. So that's our fifth Dalmatian.
Wow.
With that many, you got to open up a firehouse.
Well, the four of them are dead, so it's kind of hard to do, but yeah. So. But she, like all of our Dalmatians, she's a rescue. We drove all the way to Harrisburg to get her.
Lou, so is that the hurricane on its way toward Florida? You're muted.
Yes, I muted, and now I'm unmuted. That was this morning,
Yeah.
just as it was departing Cuba.
I talked to my sister who's down in Naples. She thought nothing was going to happen. Now it seems to be heading in her direction.
Well, no matter how many times you tell people you have to look at the entire cone, everybody just looks at the center line. It's like,
Well, it seems to even the center line has veered quite a bit south.
well,
Right?
yeah, because I mean, basically that cone is, like one standard deviation either way is likely.
I always like the French prediction, What the hell are they predicting our hurricanes for? That's what I want to know. Is it as like one of them is a French model or something?
It's the European.
European model?
I'm not familiar with the French model. I mean, there's a
European
euro.
model?
There's the euro, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, they have territory in the Caribbean and in North America, so.
Now, actually, the euro model is one of the more respected models. The American model, you get out beyond, well, in fact, close to a week, but definitely beyond a week. You might as well just ignore it. And,
Or
and
get a
all the
Sharpie out, right? Just get a Sharpie out.
yeah, oh yeah, that's probably just as good. But yeah, and the internet trolls who are trying to get trying to hype everything, they'll post the 384-hour GFS, and it always has something outlandish on it, and that's they're like telling everybody that that's what's going to happen and you're doomed and all that stuff, and it's like it's just frustrating to us people that like actually try and really do a forecast, but
WQ3Z.
Hey, Ned.
Actually, this sounds like the good basis of a great program. I'm serious, because I've often wondered what's the genesis of the European and American models? Why are the names and what do they mean? I'm serious. This is a future program.
Okay, well,
standing by.
yeah, well, I'll give you real quick. The euro is actually the actual name of it is ECMWF. And the American model is actually GFS. So, those are just nicknames for both of them.
That's because the talking heads on Channel 10 can't say those things, right?
Right. All right. Too many syllables.
So when they show that red forecast cone, that's one standard deviation?
Yeah. The cone, the actual cone around that center line. That's
Well, what is the center line? The average of all the models?
Well, I mean, that's the, it's basically, it's statistically, it's the most likely, but,
There's a 1 out of 3 chance that it'll go outside the cone then.
right, exactly.
I thought it was more like a 90 or 95%
Nope,
confidence interval.
nope, it's less than that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess enough statistics nerding. Maybe we'll get the meeting started. All right. So welcome everyone to the Mid-Atlantic Amateur Radio Club. This is our September 2022 meeting. So as always, we'll start with a round of introductions. I'm Jeremy Carlo, N2 ZLQ president. And maybe I'll just call it out. We'll start a pile up.
Rich, KB3VZL Vice President.
I'm Lou, WX3I, and
Dennis, K3DS Technical and Webmaster.
Brian, AA3BK.
Herb, K3YR.
Jim,
JW,
go ahead.
JW2AFE,
Jim, W3JNF, secretary.
Ned,
Ned, WQ3Z.
All right, there we go. Pretty decent pile up. All right. So to get us started, treasurer's report, Lou.
okay. We now have $18,926.76 in the bank. All expenses except for Bob Palin for the Hamfest have been paid. I still haven't gotten his numbers. So hopefully you received the one you were waiting for, Jeremy.
Yes, I did. I got it the other day.
Good. Sorry about that phone, but yeah, so that's so we did really good with the Hamfest. What was it, 3,300, 33 something? I don't have that up here on the screen right now, but
That's the final after expenses.
except for Bill's, Bob's expenses.
Okay.
We still need Bob's, but yeah, other than that, yeah, because we did get our security deposit back from the fire company, so they were happy with us. They actually included a little note saying "See you next year," so they want us back. So,
And we do have a date tentatively set for the next Hamfest. I believe it's August 13th, whatever the Sunday is.
right. Okay, as far as paid members, we have 81 paid members. We did get two renewing members at the Hamfest. So
All right. Thanks, Lou.
you're welcome.
Let's go to Dennis. Repeaters, everything else.
Okay, well, I'm still trying to, as I was saying before we started recording, we have 2 repeaters to be installed at Darby, a 2-meter repeater that was there once upon a time, but now has to go back, and a new 220 repeater. My problem is to maintain good relationships with this installation where we've been since 1978. We have to go through facilities, and I'm having a devil of a time going through facilities. I've actually sent them a hard copy letter at the end of June, never got a response. And now I'm pinging their telephone. I think I'm going to have to ride down to Darby and see if I can talk to somebody there, just so we can get on proper clearances so that we can get to the site. The last time we went there, Steve S, K3FZT, and myself, we were reamed another possibility because we didn't call ahead of time to tell them that we were coming. So we certainly want to maintain good relationships, but the equipment's ready to go, and my wife keeps telling me I got to get it out of here. So that'll be going real soon, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. I'm going to try to make it over to NSQ next week also to do a little PM. I'm going to try to put the power amplifier back on Since I get very little traffic on the repeaters, I can't really tell if we have any problems with the antenna. The only diagnosis, very similar to what a physician does, the only diagnosis I got was that possibly the Crescendo amplifier was sensing a VISWAR problem and essentially cutting out because it has a VISWAR protection circuit. So, but the exciter running 7 watts or so does not seem to have any problem. So I don't know what that means. So next step would be basically put everything back and see what happens. And that's about all we can do at the moment. I would like it to break permanently so we could at least say what we need to do, but it doesn't want to do that. So that's the way it goes. Again, there's not a lot of traffic either, so it's kind of hard to get any information. So that's the situation with repeaters. The website is up to date. I did put on the PAQSO party on the calendar with the proper location and things like that. And everything else is okay there as far as I know. That's the report.
So the 3.6 repeater is working again and ready to be.
Oh, I'm saying that's what the Darby machine is, right?
Yeah, I'm saying
Sitting here on my floor, it's about 10 feet away. So,
but the issues have been repaired, so it's ready to go back.
well, the issue, well, here was the issue. It was sitting, it was on the air. Okay. This is a very sad story, actually. It's on the air and we're fooling around. And what I like to do before we button up everything and lock the door and go down the elevators is try it one more time. Well, I tried it one more time and it stops working. Controller refused to recognize it. Okay, so I'm looking at it. We actually called up the manual on the internet to try to see if there's anything I could read in the manual. Nothing at all. So that's not a situation where you can do any diagnosis. So we decided to pull it. So 3.6 goes off the air. Okay, I come home, call the company, and they say, "Oh yeah, what happens is you have to reset the controller and the internal controller. And here's how you do it. When you turn it on, you have to push in the volume control knob, and that does a reset cycle." I said, "Well, I looked all over the manual, and it's not in the manual." And his answer was, "It's in the frequency asked questions." So I printed it out and I stuck it on top of the repeater. So if it ever happens and I'm not around or whatever, at least somebody could read it that you're supposed to do this to reset it. Now, what bothers me is why did it decide to reset itself? That's what really I'm really concerned about. But and when it was reset, it didn't accept any signals or anything. It just basically went off the air. So we'll have to see what happens.
So it's basically a hard reboot and a little more.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
This
How
is
about
what happens when
holiday-
you get the technical committee. You get all these little things to pry in your mind.
Well, you can also talk about the holiday party.
Oh yeah, one more thing that I'm doing. As scheduled on the calendar, the holiday party is going to be a week earlier. And the reason it's going to be a week earlier, I usually go sometime in August to try to get our foot in the door and figure out, oh, August is close enough for Christmas, right? Well, apparently not quick enough. So the best we could do is the week before, which I believe is December 3rd. So it's on the calendar that way. We do have the back room, et cetera, et cetera. Everything will be the same, except it's a week earlier, which may actually be better because the following week, people start to get into other holiday parties and God knows what. So maybe the 3rd is okay.
All right. So the holiday party will be December 3rd at Uno's Chicago Grill, 3910 Westchester Pike. All right.
Be there, and the club will pick up half the cost as we normally do and things like that. So be there or be square. But I also changed the board meeting. You didn't want to have the board meeting there. So I think I changed it on the calendar. I'll have to check.
It's still
Wanted the board meeting on the
says
regular,
December
the
3rd.
regular second Tuesday.
Yeah, it still says December 3rd on the
I'll fix it.
website.
Have you refreshed your cache? Like reload the page to see if you're actually looking at the real thing?
I could try that. No, it's still saying December 3rd.
Does it say the PAQSO party is at the Lower Merion Lower Providence Fire Company?
Yeah, that's there.
All right, well, I'll have to fix it then.
Right.
Damn webmaster can't do what he says he's supposed to do.
You're also noticing we got to update the public service events.
I never get any information, and I could certainly spend most of my time trying to dig it up and put it on there. But if somebody sends me something, and Jeremy knows that, I usually jump on it immediately, if not sooner. But if nobody sends me anything, I don't know. I don't know what to put on.
Yeah, the information I have is the Radnor 5-mile run will be October 30th, which is a Sunday.
Fine, send me an email and I'll be happy to execute it.
And then there's also the Vietnam Veterans Run in Norristown. That I'm not sure what the date is. I think Bob is still trying to find out when that will be.
Okay.
So let's see some other reports. Rich, did you want to say anything about the election?
I'm going to be sending out emails to all of the officers and then making an announcement to the club membership for anybody who wants to get their name on the ballot.
This is for the MARC election, not the other election going on.
Yes. The club election.
But Jim, did you have anything to report?
No, nothing to report tonight.
Herb, did you want to talk about nets?
I guess I want to unmute myself. I think we're looking good for October net control. We have a couple of openings still, though. We have 3 open Sunday slots, the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th. So if anybody here wants to volunteer for one or more of those slots, let me know. And otherwise, I think we'll just talk about it on air.
All right. Thanks, Herb. I'll read up a couple of events coming up. This is right off the calendar on the MARC website. So our next event coming up will be our participation in the PA QSO party. Now, Dennis, I just noticed you still have the breakfast listed for the Country Squire. So you're still muted.
As soon as somebody tells me, I'll be happy to change it. Take it off, change the location, whatever.
Yeah, so the monthly breakfast in October, we're actually going to do it at the PA QSO party, which is at the Lower Providence site. So we're going to have food there. So we'll feed you, then we'll put you to work setting up
Okay.
antennas and radios. So we'll do that. Let's see, we have a couple of club meetings coming up. Then on November 5th, we'll have our final VE test session of the year. So I'm sure we'll hear from Dick before then. Then we have our 2 public service events. Actually, Lou just sent me a message with information about Norristown. The Vietnam Veterans 5K run will be Saturday, November 5. He just sent that to me.
Yep.
And the Radnor run will be
I actually
October.
just found another post, which is probably not correct, saying it was Friday, November 4th. So I'm thinking the Saturday makes more sense. So.
Okay. Yeah. And then we have the holiday party on December 3rd, and that rounds out our events for the year. Does anyone else have any committee reports before we go to the main program? All right, then without further ado, we'll move on to the main program of the evening. And that's going to be about the Pennsylvania QSO party, which is coming up on October 8 and 9. So we'll be setting up a club station at the Lower Providence Fire Department. That is our usual field day site. And we're going to be operating from there. It'll be kind of a mini field day. I know Herb and Dennis have been very much involved in that. So maybe we'll hear a little bit about our plans. If you're planning on coming out, this will be your turn to find out information about what we'll be doing, what bands will be operating, what radios will be operating, and a little bit about the contest. Right. So
Okay, let's see if this will, there you go. This is my mug from the PA QSO party in 2002 for working 65 out of 67 counties. I've never been able to get all 67. I can tell you that PA QSO party is kind of funny because you got these people up in sort of the northwest corner of the state, and somebody calls an old guy on the phone, he gets on, and then everybody works him, and then he goes off the air again. So it's really hard to work all 67 counties, let me tell you. But you do have a lot of fun. And I operate in Delaware County, and the biggest problem I have is people think it's the state of Delaware as opposed to Delaware County. But what can I tell you? So that's the way it works. But the QSO party is a lot of fun because you are working counties, and people outside of the state are interested in working you. And I'm not sure Montgomery County is that unrepresented, but that's where we'll be. I do have the software, Jeremy. You know that, right? I did buy the
you got
logging
that.
software, so we have a license for that now, and it's on the PCs, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. So Herb, did you want to start the discussion?
Yeah, sure. So that's good. And that so I have my mug from last year's QSO party. although this was not an award for working any number of counties. This is just paid swag. And the link to the shop where you can buy PA QSO Party stuff is on the PA QSO Party website. But you can get your little personalized mug with your call sign. This will be the 66th annual running of the Pennsylvania QSO Party, and I've got a little slide deck. Host disabled participant screen sharing, so I can't share it. But I do have a little slide deck if you allow me to do that. And it's similar to what we presented last year, but I've tried to update it a little bit to show sort of what we're going to be doing differently this year, now that we have the the field day site, and we're going to be doing things there. So let me hit share screen, and we'll go through this, and I'll do it like this so you don't have to see the all the presenter stuff. So what is the Pennsylvania QSO Party? As Dennis mentioned, it's a really fun event. You try to work all 67 counties in Pennsylvania in a single weekend, and it's kind of like a combination of a contest and a scavenger hunt. Certainly Montgomery County, where the field day site is going to be, is not necessarily one of the rarer counties. There are some small counties where, as Dennis said, there may be one or two guys that are in that county at all, and they're operating only for a few hours, and there's a massive pile up to try and get them. And then when they decide to go to bed and shut down their station, you're done, and you're not going to get that county at all. But it is a whole lot of fun. When is it? It is the weekend of Saturday, October 8th and Sunday, October 9th. It is a 2-day contest, but there are two distinct operating periods. There's a mandatory downtime. There's a mandatory off period, basically that runs from midnight Saturday night through 9 a.m. Sunday morning. So the contest begins at noon Eastern time on Saturday the 8th, runs all the way to midnight. Then you stop. And then you pick up again 9 a.m. Sunday and continue until 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday evening. Allowable modes, pretty much phone and CW, any kind of phone you want to use, SSB, AM, FM, any allowable voice mode, and of course CW, but the contest does not allow digital modes, no FT8, no RIDI, none of the other digital modes. And the reason for that is because there is a very specific exchange that you have to make in order to have a valid QSO, and you can't easily do that in some of the digital modes. So rather than have two separate exchanges, the contest just doesn't allow the digital modes. All right, so what are we doing for the QSO party this year? So MARC is going to set up antennas and transceivers at our normal field day site at the Lower Providence Fire Department. We're going to be at the site from around breakfast time. I think we set around 9 a.m. on Saturday, so that we can be fed and then begin setting up equipment so that you can start operating exactly at 12 noon when the starter's gun fires, the imaginary starter's gun fires to tell us that the contest has begun. The field day site, as far as I understand, MARC is providing 2 transceivers along with laptops for logging, and is going to set up a G5RV antenna and an NFED antenna. If you are at the site and using the MARC equipment, people are going to be encouraged to use the club call sign W3NWA, and that's because the logging software, as I understand it, is licensed for club use, and so it's just going to be easier that way. Obviously, the operator needs to operate within their band privileges, whoever the control operator is, We are allowed to have non-hams be there as long as there is a control operator who is licensed, who is standing over their shoulder and guiding them. And there is a plaque or a certificate for the club that has the most young hams and non-hams participating. I don't think we're gonna win that award, but we might have. We certainly will have a youth, and we may or may not be able to attract a couple of non-hams. There will be other rigs available at the site. For example, I'm going to bring my ICOM 7300 and some antenna equipment, and there's some specific contest-related reasons why I'm going to do that, which I don't have to go into in this presentation, but I'm happy to tell you if you really want to know. If you're using your own equipment, you have your own option to use the club call sign if you want, or to use your personal call sign. Jeremy mentioned that he might be bringing a QRP rig. It's certainly advantageous from a contest point of view for whoever is operating that QRP rig to use their personal call sign and only do QRP, because then you can get a points bonus. And I'll go into that scoring and points bonus stuff a little bit later. Well, I just said that, right? So who should come? Serious contesters who want to operate outdoors or who can't operate at home because they have space limitations, antenna restrictions, or other reasons. Or non-serious contesters who just want to get a taste of what the QSO party is like, or maybe they want a little bit of Elmering and a little bit of help in contesting. They just want to operate HF and they can't do it at home for one reason or another. Who else should come? CW operators. There is a point bonus for CW contacts. CW contacts are worth more than SSB contacts. So if anybody in the club likes operating CW, come on down, because that will help the total score. And of course, people, maybe they don't want to operate at all. They just want to socialize, get together, stay up all night, eat pizza and drink whatever they're drinking. And then non-hams who want to learn about the hobby. So that's who should come. More details about the party. So what bands do we typically use? You'll find activity in the QSO party on most of the HF bands, depending on the time of day: 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10. We are not allowed to use the WARC bands. Contesting is not allowed on those bands by gentleman's agreement, and the PAQSO party rules expressly prohibit operations on 12 meters, 17 meters, 30 meters, or 60 meters. Those are the WARC bands. You can operate on VHF and UHF bands if it really is something you want to do, and you've got the equipment and you want to operate 630 meters or 2200 meters. Knock yourself out. Don't think you'll make too many contacts on those bands, but knock yourself out if you want to. Can you make contacts using repeaters, Echolink, WiresX? Short answer, no. QSOs made using repeaters or satellites or any of those modes don't count for QSO party credit. What kind of power? Well, there are 3 different power categories. High power operations are anything more than 100 watts. Low power operation is anything more than 5 but less than or equal to 100. And then QRP is defined as 5 watts or less. You don't have to worry about PEP or ERP or anything like that. The power is measured at transmitter output. So if your transmitter is supposed to be putting out 100 watts, then you're a low power station. There are several different categories of entries. There's a home station, a portable station, a mobile station, a rover station, and a county line station. A home station is a station that operates from a single fixed location. It doesn't have to be a residential home. For example, they expressly say a club station could be a home station. That will not be us. We will be a portable station because we are a station set up in a single county specifically for the QSO party with the intention of tearing down the installation after the party is over. So that is considered a portable station. Mobile stations are, as the name suggests, stations that are capable of operation while in motion. A rover is a station that is capable of moving from one place to another, but uses an antenna that is set up on the site and then torn down and moved to a different location. And I am going to be entering in the rover category, not necessarily because I want to, but because I can only be at the field day site on Saturday. I can't be there on Sunday. And since that puts me in two different counties, because my home county is Delaware County, I will be a rover station. And then the county line station is a station that's pretty much set up right on or very close to the boundaries of two or more adjacent counties. And contacting a county line station is nice because you get credit for two different counties with one QSO. Okay, operator categories. There's a multi-operator or a single operator. So obviously the club station using the club call is going to be a multi-operator station. A single operator station would be like, for example, me, if I'm using my personal call, that's a single operator station. So you can enter either as a phone category where all your QSOs are voice. You're allowed to operate as a pure CW station, or you can operate as mixed. So the minute you have one of each, then you're in the mixed category. So if you're operating all CW and you have one SSB QSO in your log, that puts you into the mixed category rather than the CW category. Okay, so I reckon W3NWA will be a multi-operator, low-power, portable station. And depending on who comes down to the site, we're either going to be entering in the phone category or the mixed category. I don't know if we have anybody who's going to operate CW at the site. Here's a little typo in my presentation, but operators using their personal call signs can enter any category they want, and you can then have your personal score consolidated with MARC's club score. And basically that is ticking a box and filling in a field. When you are uploading your log, your personal log, you just say, I'm a member of Mid-Atlantic Amateur Radio Club, and then your personal log gets consolidated with whatever the club has done. And that is true whether you're at the field day site, whether you're at your house, whether you're operating mobile, even operating out of state, you can do that. As long as you're a member in good standing of the club, you can consolidate your log with the club. Okay, so how do people make contacts at the QSO party? Well, there's two basic methods. There's running and there's hunting, or sometimes called search and pounce. So running is where you park yourself on an open frequency. If you can find one, good luck. You park yourself on an open frequency, call CQ, wait for replies, and give the contest exchange. And that can be a very, very productive way of making lots and lots of contacts. But hunting or search and pounce is where you're tuning around the band, looking for stations who are themselves calling CQ. And, you just jump into the pile up, you throw your call sign into the pile up, and when you are called upon, you give your contest exchange. And that search and pounce method is usually the only way you're going to get the rare counties. I mean, sometimes you get lucky and you have Pike County or Elk County calling you, but more likely you're going to have to find them and hunt them. So what is the contest exchange? The contest exchange is the minimum information that you have to give and receive if you want to receive credit for that contact. The Pennsylvania QSO party is different from some other state QSO parties because you need 3 pieces of information sent and 3 pieces of information received in order for it to be a valid QSO. And all of that has to be recorded correctly and logged correctly. You need to give your call sign, for example, Whiskey 3 November Whiskey Alpha. You have to give your county using the standard abbreviations approved in the contest. So, Jeremy, I think you mentioned you're going to be bringing a list of the counties and their abbreviations, and that'll be really helpful. So, for example, MGY, Mike Golf Yankee, means Montgomery County. And then you have to give a sequence number. And the sequence number is nothing hard. It's not rocket science. 1 is for your first contact, 2 is for your second contact, and so on and so forth. The only thing that's a little bit complicated is when you have a multi-operator station, you need to somehow keep track of sequence numbers across different operators. But the logging software is going to do that for us. The logging software will keep track and it will automatically advance the sequence number with each QSO. And, well, gee, what's going to happen if, Dennis is operating on 40 meters and I'm operating on 80 meters and we're sitting right next to each other? How do I know what sequence number he's at? Well, the rules allow us to log sequentially by band. So all we really need to do is make sure that the 80-meter QSOs have one set of sequence numbers, the 40 meters have a different set, and that we don't sort of lose numbers in the sequence there. So it does require a little bit of coordination, but it shouldn't be too bad. Then you need to receive the corresponding information from the other station and correctly record all of that in your log. What you need from the other station depends. Oh, Ned, you have a question. Go ahead.
Do the sequence numbers have to start with 1?
Yeah. One will be the first contact.
I did that. Does it have to start with 1?
What do you mean?
Well, for instance, could the 80-meter sequence start with like 80? So the first one would be 8001, the second would be 8002, and then the 40-meter station would be 4001. That harkens back to some traffic operators who will number their traffic messages starting with like 01 for January, 02 for February. Just, a question only Ned would have.
I see your point, and I see the logic in that, but I think that the sequence number traditionally it starts with 1 for the first contact, and then just increments by 1. So you'd be 001 for the first contact on any given band. I think so. Actually that's a really good question, and I think that rather than just give a seat of the pants answer, I'm going to just put that question to Goody or to one of the organizers by email and ask them. I would rather just ask them, but anyway, so whatever is the answer on that. So the info you need from the other station is going to depend on where that other station is. So if it's a Pennsylvania station, you need their county. You need to get the county from any station inside the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. If they are outside Pennsylvania, So for US stations and Canadian stations, so any American station, any Victor Echo, Victor Alpha, you need their ARRL section abbreviation or their Canadian section abbreviation. So, and then for stations outside the US and Canada, you just log them as DX. So it doesn't really matter. So if you get a French station or an Italian station, all you really need is the sequence number and the call sign, and then you just put DX in the field for the for where they are. So giving and getting the sequence number is important. Anybody who's participating in the contest knows about the sequence number and they know to give it to you. But sometimes you are calling CQ, especially if you're on one of the higher bands, if you're on 20 meters or 15 meters or something, you're calling CQ and some guy in Kansas answers you or some guy in Belgium answers you, and they don't know anything about the contest. They don't know they have to volunteer a sequence number. So, but you need a sequence number for them. So you've got to ask them, oh, am I your first contact in the contest? Am I 001? And usually they'll say, huh, what are you talking about? But eventually, they'll say yes. And then you can just log them as one. And that's going to be important in a minute when I talk about some other states, some specific states. So again, each
Question.
go ahead.
If we have two different operators, on one band, let's say one on another band, do the sequence numbers, are they within the band, or does each band have its own sequence?
Yeah, right. So I don't think there's any way that we could coordinate sequence numbers without some real sophisticated software on the aggregate basis for all for two people operating on different bands. So I think the way and the rules allow what we're going to do. The way we're going to do it is, for example, there's going to be one laptop on one radio, another laptop on another radio, and we're not going to be operating those rigs on the same band at the same time, because anyway, we're only allowed one transmitted signal in any given band mode at a time. And so let's say you're on 40 and Dennis is on 80. So your sequence numbers will be independent of his.
Yeah, that was basically my question.
Yeah.
So basically, the sequence number is associated with the radio.
Well, not either. It's associated with the band, right? So if you're sitting and operating 40 and he's operating 80, and then you decide to go home and he wants to operate 40, he's got to pick up where your sequence number left off.
Wait, I lost you now. What I'm thinking of is as follows. I have one guy on 20, one guy on 40. And the guy on 40 goes home, let's say, or stops. So there's nobody on 40. Then the guy who's on 20 switches to 40. Does he pick up the 40 sequence?
He has to.
Okay. So the,
and
the
I mean,
sequence
you're raising a logist. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So the sequence number is associated with the laptop.
Well, you're asking a rules question, but raising a logistical question, and you're right. It has to be, because the sequence number is associated with the band, right? And what you're saying, and absolutely 100% correctly, is that the only way to make sure we don't mess it up in the log is to ensure that that radio and that band and that laptop are linked. So when one guy finishes operating 40 and goes home, the guy who's operating 20 should not just tune his radio to 40 and keep on merrily going with the same laptop. He should go and use the laptop that was previously logging 40 meter contacts. Or else you have to sort of close out the log. And I don't know how to do that, to be honest, but ultimately the sequence numbers are associated with a band, and you need to make sure that they don't get mixed up when somebody switches bands.
And the way to do that is to have the bands associated with the laptops. Now, the question then is, what happens if I go to a third frequency? Let's say 10 meters. How do I deal with the logs then?
Well, you'd need to open a new log file, I reckon.
I don't know. I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, so this is, to be honest, this is one of the reasons why I want to operate under my own call sign, because then I'm just going to keep my own sequence numbers. But that is a practical problem, and it's also a problem of and if I come a little bit later and I talk about bands, during the progression of the day, when we start at noon, probably people are going to be looking at 10 meters and 15 meters and 20 meters, right? And then as the day progresses, dropping down to 40 and 80. But the next day, they will be back up in, 20 and 15. So there needs to be a way to keep the 20 meter band sequence number synced up. Now, the other way to do it, which I don't really recommend, is to log on paper and enter everything later. But that's a pain in the neck for whoever.
Well, if you can open up multiple logs on the same computer, then it shouldn't be a problem. You just have a separate log for each band, and you just have to make sure you don't open two logs for the same band on different computers.
That's exactly right. And it's not something you can fix after the fact. Like in a lot of, because
once you send your number out, that's it.
The other guy has your number, and if your number doesn't match the number you gave him, neither one is going to get credit for that QSO.
Correct. That's my concern.
It's a valid concern. I really don't. I'm not smart enough to figure out how to keep that all in sync. But that, to me, is the concern with multi-op.
Well, I guess.
Okay. Well, why don't we make a decision then that we'll have a separate log file for each band, but that log file will reside on only one computer.
Yeah, so another way of saying that is one rig. You can use different bands on a given rig, but no rig laptop combination. Once they're used on 20, you can't use 20 on the other station.
So what we might want to do is come up with a thoughtful way to divide up the bands that will never have a conflict with that. So we'll have computer A and computer B, and then A will be assigned the following bands, B will be assigned the following bands, such that you'd never want to use two of the A bands at once.
Yeah, and if you do, that's exactly where I was heading, Jeremy. And then if you set up a rule that says you can't operate, let's say 10 and 20, let's suppose they were on the same laptop. You couldn't have those two bands running. If you had those two bands running simultaneously, the two radios would have to share the same computer.
Another way of putting what you're saying, Brian, I think what you're saying is, for example, if you want to operate 40 meters, you have to use laptop A. If you want to operate 80 meters, you have to use laptop B.
Right.
So what we might want to do with the computer is put Post-its on each of them saying which bands they're for.
Exactly.
Yes.
We'll have like computer A will say, 80 meters, 20 meters. 10
no,
meters.
I think what you want to do is put every other one, like go back and forth. So one will do 80, the other one will do 40, the other one will do 15, so that you can have like two low bands and two high bands available, like 80 and 40 on two different machines. So one machine would run 80. I got to do this in my head, not 40, but 20, not 15, but 10, for example, right? And the
Yeah,
other one would
something like
fill
that.
in the ones that are missing.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
But if we have 3 computers, that relieves some of the pressure.
But you don't have 3 rigs.
You'll
Yeah, we
you'll
don't
have a
need to.
third. But
Okay.
You don't need,
Use whatever radio you want. It's the computer that has to be linked.
yeah,
you
and I
just have
don't
to be
think
careful.
I think
And by
more-
the way, if you were in a situation where you had two, let's say, 10 and 20 on the same computer, and they were running those two nets, those two frequency bands, it would just have to be that one computer has to be the one where you record the sequence numbers or record the contact.
yeah.
So there have to be some, yeah, at that point, you might need a third operator to operate the computer and 2 other guys to run the radio.
Well, that's another option is if you have extra people, one can operate and another can log. But I think that adding a third laptop would not make it easier, it would make it worse. That's my personal view, but
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
Well, you can always swap the computers out.
yes, it's the computer that is got to be specific. The radio you can tune to anything you want. It's the computer that has to be limited to those bands.
Correct. Okay, now I understand.
Yeah, so the idea is, you pick whichever radio is available and then you grab the appropriate computer unless it's already in use. So the idea would be to try to minimize the conflicts where if I want to use 20 meters, then somebody's operating a different band on the 20-meter machine computer.
Well, but this is why Dennis's suggestion is a really good one, because 20 is a daytime band, so is 15, right? So you want those on different laptops. 80 and 40 are nighttime bands, so you want those on different laptops. And you want, if anybody's going to try operating 160, it shouldn't be, 160 should not be on the laptop that 80 is on.
But there is a period where you'll be operating 40 and 20. So you want to make sure those are on different machines.
Correct. So it's just a question. So there's a time where you'll be operating 40 and 20. There's a time where you'll be operating 40 and 80. There's a time where you'll be operating 20 and 15. And really 10 is odd man out. And 6, I guess.
Yeah, so that could be, if we had a third computer, it could be those.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then VHF, UHF.
Right. But VHF, UHF, you're going to probably log those on paper and transcribe them in, because how many do you think you're really going to make VHF and UHF contacts? Not many. We'll probably all contact each other on VHF, UHF.
Do
with
they need the
HTs.
exact timestamps of the QSOs as well?
Yeah.
They do. Okay, so that I think that was our issue with paper logs, is we had to record the exact time.
Well, yeah, but everybody, everybody has an iPhone. You look at the phone and what time it is, if you remember. It's hard to do that when you're running a pileup. And that's why the logging software is good. But, if you're making a few one-offs on VHF, I don't think that should be that hard to do that.
I don't know. The WQ3Z model is looking better and better.
That would be a good solution, but I guess they don't do it. I mean, the other thing that I was thinking of is we get like a deli counter, with the now serving, and put it up there. And every time you make a contact, you hit the button and now serving number 63.
Well, even if you use that model, which I understand the appeal to it, it still means that your 8002 has to follow 8001, which means that you still need to have the sequence number on 80 meters all on the same laptop.
All right, now let me ask this. if, can you have gaps in your sequencing?
Yes.
Yes. The important
Okay.
thing is that your sequence number matches what you gave on air and what the other guy heard and recorded in his log.
The situation I'm thinking of is one in which the,
The other thing is it can't match one you've already given. It's got to
Right.
be. But yeah, I mean that's really a thing. It'll get bounced if you give two sequence numbers on the same band, and it's the same sequence number in both cases.
yeah,
I
but
used
that,
to
that wasn't the point I was making. The situation I was thinking of is one in which you give out your sequence number. Let's say it's 20, okay, but for some reason you don't get a QSL on the contact. Do you reuse the 20 or do you go to 21? My gut feel would say let's go to 21 because maybe the guy.
Oh, you mean like you're not sure if he recorded you or not.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta advance one.
Right.
So so it's okay to have gaps in your log.
Yeah.
Well, it won't be a gap in your log. You'll log him. He might not have logged you. You don't get penalized for that. You just don't get the point if the log doesn't match. So,
Okay.
for example, you give AA3BK 20, and you're not quite sure if he QSL'd you, and then he's moved on, right? Log him as 20 and move on to the next contact.
Okay.
Jeremy's idea of actually having a now serving, if you read the rules, it says there can be gaps in the numbers that you use on each band. So, I mean, as long as you're giving sequential numbers
And not giving duplicate numbers.
they don't have to be configured.
Yeah. The important thing is that your number matches what he's recorded in his log and that you don't give the same number to two different people.
Right.
I used to cause great consternation. About 3 hours into the contest, I'd be working some high power station, and I tell them my number is 1259.
Yeah.
And there's a big long pause at the other end.
But this would solve the problem then, because then we could assign blocks of numbers to each band. So if you're working on
That's
80
the NED model.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the NED model. Yes.
That's the WQ3Z model, which, by the way, if you're doing that, then you can swap, laptops, because you either go to your next block or you say, hey, what was the highest number on, for instance, 80, meters, and then you just do the reset or set to or whatever it's called in the software to start at the next one up.
Right, but I'm sorry. I mean, like, again, I'm just a poor country lawyer, but I think that doesn't solve anything because you still got to know what the last sequence number was in order for that to be higher than it. So
Right.
if the last sequence number was 8027, you need to know that you have to be at least 8028. So why not just be 8028? Or why not just be 28 without the 80?
The point is you make blocks far enough apart that there'll never be a collision. And then you only need to know what happened on that band.
Well, whatever. I think it's just much easier the way Dennis said it. I go with Dennis's solution. But then again, I'm running my own personal call sign, so I'm just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But anyway, we can
See it. As long as you can have gaps, and as long as you have separate files unique to each band, you shouldn't get in trouble just going sequentially. You don't need to do the blocking.
Yeah.
Blocking would make sense if you were opening multiple bands on different computers and you had no way of knowing what the other guy was doing. So I would say let's not try to go blocking. Just do it
Dennis, you're on
sequentially.
mute.
This software that we just got is capable of networking PCs. We used to do that a couple of years ago when Loop provided like 2 or 3 machines. I remember at least one field day we had them network together. And I haven't played with that, but we could certainly see what that would do too, because there's a special set of logging now built in when you have network computers.
Well, if they're networked, that solves the problem.
But I didn't network them right now. So I
Right.
can switch out, I'll play with it or whatever.
It's not like you have anything else to do, right? You
No,
know,
it's not. I got nothing to do, actually.
All right. So with all of that, I mean, those are all great questions, and I think this is a really good discussion. And we'll do what we can. All right. So again, you have standardized abbreviations that you log for the counties. There's a list of those. There's a list of the ARRL sections and the RAC sections. You can download them. Jeremy said he'll bring some laminated copies.
The software
usually-
already has that built in. You just click on it.
Yeah.
The software actually shows those abbreviations on the screen, so you don't have to try to memorize anything.
Yeah, that's right. And I usually keep a printed list, which I check off, which is not for logging. It's just kind of so I know what I have and what I'm still looking for. Here's the list, and here's the section list. In our area, this is what we're going to be seeing is Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, Philadelphia. So your sample exchange, CQ, this is Whiskey 3 November Whiskey Alpha. Okay, I'm going to answer K3YR. Okay, go ahead. Please copy 002 Delta Charlie Oscar. Contesters will tell you don't say please copy because it slows you down. Just give them the number and the county abbreviation, but you're going to hear a lot of guys do that. Thank you for Delaware County. Please copy 015 Mike Golf Yankee. Okay, and then you're done. That's the exchange. If it is a station outside of Pennsylvania, the typical thing you're going to hear is they're going to tell you, okay, it's Whiskey Alpha 2 Roger Juliet Oscar 002 New York. Okay, well, you don't need New York. You need their ARRL section. So you got to ask them for that, and they may or may not know it. So you may have to give them a little, lead them by the hand. Oh, you're in Eastern New York. You're in Northern New York, or whatever section they're in. Most hams know their section identifiers if they are participating in the contest, but you are going to get either casual contesters, new hams, or people who are just tuning around the dial and hear you calling CQ and they want to answer you. Usually the section is identical to the state or province, but there are a few big states, and in Canada, the province of Ontario, that gets subdivided. So, yes, California, Florida, and Texas have multiple sections, but in the Pennsylvania QSO party, especially in the evening hours, you're mostly going to be faced with New Jersey, Northern New Jersey, Southern New Jersey, Massachusetts, Eastern Mass, and Western Mass, and then the 4 sections of New York, Eastern, Western, Northern, and the New York City, Long Island. And then Ontario, which has 4 sections: Ontario North, Ontario South, Ontario East, and a GTA, Golf Tango Alpha, which is Greater Toronto. Again, most hams are going to know their sections. If it's DX, and here's this guy, OM2VL, he is in the Slovak Republic. He participates in every QSO party, and he runs up a big score. He's got a super station over there, so for sure he'll be calling us. And all you need to do is record and log that as DX. Yeah, he's telling you he's in the Slovak Republic, but that information is superfluous for the contest log. You just need to know his sequence number and his call sign. So again, always give and get the sequence number. I think we beat that to death about sequence. Always get the county for contacts in Pennsylvania. Always get the section for Canadian and U.S. stations. I say here, you do not need to get the county for an out-of-state station, and then there's a little asterisk next to that. So there is an exception to that, which I'll come to in a moment. But you don't need to know what county somebody is in Virginia or New York or Rhode Island or whatever. It doesn't matter. You just need to get the section. You do get a multiplier for Eastern Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, but you don't need to log that. The QSO party organizers will apply that multiplier depending on if you've made a contact in WPA, which probably you will have. Always try to get the other station's call sign exactly correct. Last year, I lost points for logging somebody as a Victor Echo 3 when they were a Victor Alpha 3. It's easy and
Did we lose voice?
Yeah, I think we lost him.
Yeah, his video is frozen, so.
daylight hours, but yeah.
Welcome back.
Those states, Nevada, Arizona, and South Dakota, also have QSO parties on the same weekend as we do. Depending on propagation, we might get contacts from those states. That's great because each new state is a multiplier. The same QSO can count for credit for us in our QSO party and credit for them in their QSO party. But the exchange gets a little bit trickier. They are going to be giving you their county names, which that's what they have to do in their QSO party. We don't need their county name, but we can take it, but we just have to write down their state, okay? However, they don't use sequence numbers, so we need to get a sequence number from them to make it a valid contact, and they have to log that sequence number for us to have a valid QSO for the QSO party. Nevada stations also need our ARRL section, so it's Echo Papa Alpha. But we also have to give them our county. Okay, scoring. We don't keep score ourselves. We don't really need to aim for a high score. Just make sure you have fun. But it is nice to look at the leaderboards when they get published in January to see how we did. And obviously, it's better, it's sometimes better to do well than it is to come in last. 1 point for every voice QSO, and that's doubled if it's QRP. So it's 2 points if it's QRP voice. 2 points for every CW QSO. 4 points if it's a QRP CW. There is a 200-point bonus for any QSO you make with the bonus station, and this year it's Kilo Quebec 3 Foxtrot, and they're going to be in Lehigh County. It's a low-power station. And then your total score gets increased by multipliers. So you total up how many QSO points you got, and you multiply them by the number of multipliers. Every Pennsylvania county is a multiplier, and every ARRL section and every Canadian RAC section is a multiplier, and then you get one multiplier for DX. So you take the total number of multipliers and just multiply it by the total number of QSO points you have. So if you made 40 phone contacts worth 1 point each, and 10 CW contacts worth 2 points each, that's 60 QSO points. And then if you have 40 counties in Pennsylvania, plus Delaware, Ohio, Northern New Jersey, whatever, 46 multipliers, that gives you 2,760 points. Okay, tips and tricks. In state, the farthest point away from where we are is probably Erie, and that's only 300 miles or so. So 20 and 15 are probably not going to be a whole lot of use for in-state contacts. So you want to be in the high bands during the daylight hours so that you can get your multipliers from out-of-state contacts out west, in the Midwest, in the South, and try and pick up at least one DX. And then in the late afternoon, you're going to want to shift to 40, and then towards dusk, drop down to 80 so that you can get contacts in the northeastern U.S. and lots of in-state contacts for PA. 80 meters is just hopping. Once the sun goes down, it's really, really difficult to find a clear frequency on 80 meters during the QSO party. And then, some people will drop down to 160 meters during the very late evening hours on Saturday. Duplicates. What about duplicates? So we talked about duplicate sequence numbers. What about duplicate QSOs? You've got a call sign. He's worked you before. Well, you can get credit for working a station in different modes on the same band. You can get credit for working a station on different bands, even if it's the same mode. You don't get credit for working the same station twice in the same band mode, even if it's on different days. So you work a guy Saturday, 40 meter SSB. You're not going to get credit if you work him again on Sunday, 40 meter SSB. However, don't refuse to work a dupe. Why? First of all, there's no penalty for the duplicate. It just gets zeroed out. It gets ignored. You don't get penalized for having the duplicate in the log. Second of all, maybe the second time around is really the one that's going to count, because one of you might have logged something incorrectly the first time around. So maybe the first time the QSO is there and your logging software is telling you this is a dupe, maybe he has logged you wrong. And so you aren't going to get credit for that anyway. So take the second contact anyway. Plus, if you're really contesting, it's faster to work the dupe and move on than to waste time telling them that they're a duplicate and they're saying, and they're debating you about it. Okay. Young hands.
Question?
Go ahead.
Question on dupes.
Yeah.
If you work somebody with 40 meters SSB on low power and 40 SSB on QRP, is that considered two separate
No,
QSOs?
it's a dupe.
It's a dupe. Okay.
And by the way, about QRP, and I said earlier that my suggestion is if you're working QRP, you should do it under your personal call sign, is because when you use in the same log under the same call sign more than one power mode, you are entered into the category of the highest power mode you used. So so then you don't get the point bonus for QRP. You're only getting that point bonus if you are a pure QRP operation.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. There is a new award for 2022 to encourage participation by non-hams and young people in order to recognize Elners. So the party log submittal process will include an option for multi-op stations, such as the club station, to identify non-hams of any age and or licensed hams under the age of 25 that either operated or logged during the contest, as well as the call signs of their Elmers. And the submitter will get a certificate commemorating participation for the non-hams, young operators, or Elmers. So we're going to have at least one young ham on Saturday. We'll have KC3NTC, my son, who is 16. He will be there, so we can certainly get the certificate for having one young ham. I don't know if we'll have any non-hams. He might drag one of his buddies over, and maybe that guy can help with logging and keeping things straight. And then, maybe we get a certificate for him as well. But that is something new. And all non-hams, licensed hams, and their Elmers will be noted in the QSO party results report. So this is a new thing for 2022. Okay, spotting and spotting networks. Unlike field day, the Pennsylvania QSO party allows the use of spotting networks, so you can monitor the DX cluster and other spotting networks to look for when Elk County shows up on the air, and then go join the pileup. And you can also do self-spotting, so somebody can spot Whiskey 3 November Whiskey Alpha on one of the clusters, and that will sort of attract people to come and answer our CQ calls. Certainly use the spotting network to find stations activating rare counties. As we mentioned at the beginning, some counties may only have one or two hams active, and once they go QRT, we're not getting that county. If you're at the field day site and you do manage to get one of these rarer counties, give an oral shout out so that people who are operating, with their old call signs or on the QRP rig or whatever, can go after and chase them as well. And there are, you can use any of the common DX clusters, and the QSO party has its own spotting page, and I have a link to it on another slide somewhere. Logging, we talked at length about this. The score only gets counted. Say again? That's not for me. The score gets counted only if you correctly log and you submit the valid log within 7 days of the end of the contest. Log submission, really important. If you're using one of the laptops under the club call sign, and see here, I must have ESP because I use the word networked laptops, so I must have been prescient in knowing that the laptops might be networked. But if you're using one of those, the club is going to submit the log, and you don't have to worry about submission. You just have to worry about accurate logging. I have a whole thing here about paper logging or computer logging. I'm not going to belabor it because it's already getting late. If you want the slide deck, I'll send it to you. There you go. However, the big disadvantage is no paper logs can be submitted. You'd have to manually enter all your log data into a computer anyway, and that's a real pain in the neck if you've got a couple hundred contacts. And also, paper logging makes it hard to detect incorrectly copied call signs if you are... are we going to have internet access on these laptops? Probably not, right?
Lou, is there Wi-Fi there? Or a hotspot or something?
There is Wi-Fi. I don't have all the details, but I could probably get them. So we could have internet access.
Because if you have internet access, you can do like lookups, real-time lookups on QRZ or one of the other databases. If not, it doesn't really matter. But that's the way you detect incorrectly copied call signs, is when it's not recognized in QRZ. Okay. Blah blah blah. the software should automatically advance the sequence number and pre-fill your county information so you don't need to keep typing MGY when you're generating your log for submission. And your software should be able to export your log into Cabrillo format. Okay, disadvantages, steeper learning curve, and if you're operating portable like I plan to be on Sunday, you're limited by your laptop battery life. So here we go about the N3FJP software. I know nothing about it. So, Dennis, I imagine that at
It's the same,
go ahead.
the same software as we used at Field Day. So,
Well, the last time I was at Field Day, which admittedly was not last year, it was the year before, we logged on paper.
well, I don't know why, because we've had this license for longer than God, but okay.
Okay. So I've never used it, but then again, those of you who have used it don't need me to tell you about it. Okay, good. Other logging software, maybe for people who are watching the video and are going to be participating at home, N1MM Logger Plus seems to be the most popular contest logging software. It's free. You can download it at that website. I've never ever used it or anything else on Windows logging software because I am a Mac user. And what do I use? So for everyday logging, I use MacLogger DX, but MacLogger DX isn't very good for contesting because it cannot directly export to Cabrillo. So other options for Mac OS are Skookum Logger, which I have and I can't figure out how to use, or RumLogNG, which is free and much easier to learn. The user manual isn't very good, but you don't really need it because it's easy enough to set up and use. And both of those programs allow direct export into your Cabrillo file. Again, the club will handle log submission if you're using the MARC rigs and laptops. If you are operating from home or if you're operating at the site using your own equipment and call sign, you have to submit your own log. So export it into Cabrillo format and then upload it at the PA QSO Party website. And there's a link for log submission. And the most important thing there is to make sure that you fill up the club field by writing the phrase Mid-Atlantic Amateur Radio Club so that we get credit for it. And here is a graphic. It shows the log submission link on the left side of the page. And, this is if you click on that, this is the next screen and they ask you what is your operation type. Fixed or portable is the button on the left, mobile, rover, or county line on the right. And then you put in name and basic info. And then right here, the bottom field is the club name, and they don't want an abbreviation MARC. They want it spelled out Mid-Atlantic Amateur Radio Club. And then once you do that, you would choose your entry division, and here's all the different entry divisions. And then what county are you in? So it might be MGY, it might be Delta Charlie Oscar, it might be Charlie Hotel Echo, depending on what county you're operating from. And then you have a little declaration basically telling them that your log is correct and you didn't cheat and you followed the rules. All right, last but not least, there is a pre-party net on 80 meters the night before the contest. So that would be Friday, the 7th of October at 8 p.m. Eastern at 3910 plus or minus, depending on, what the band looks like. Again, Pennsylvania rules allow spotting, including self-spotting. And here's the link to the dedicated spotting page for the QSO party. And that is it. That's all she wrote. So have fun.
All right.
I have a question, totally unrelated to anything that we just talked about.
Okay.
I have a bunch of equipment at my house. I do not have the transport capability to bring it up to the fire department site. So how do you want to arrange pickup?
But we're not going to need everything from the equipment. Certainly the larger items, a lot of them we're not going to need.
I don't know what you what you need. I don't even know what we have downstairs. Two vehicles showed up at my house and each of them unloaded some stuff and I showed them where to store it. You're welcome to come by a reasonable time and pick it up the night before, or if somebody wants to get up early, they can come by Saturday morning. I just need an answer.
Well, the first thing we have to do is determine what we want, and then
I would think so.
somebody's gonna have to go over. I mean, I can go over and sort or help sort or whatever, but I don't have room to transport a lot of stuff either, so.
So what's there and what do we need from there? I think that's the first thing. So you don't know, Brian, what's there, but presumably somebody knows what's there.
That's correct.
Well, I know what's there because it's all field day stuff, so. But we probably don't even need a third of what's there.
Yeah, so we would need the rigs, the tuners, power supply. We would need the two
Cable.
big wire antennas, the coax to go with it,
And filters.
then the filters. Do we want to have another antenna, maybe a 40 or an 80 dipole? I mean, the antennas don't take up much space, but the coax gets a bit larger.
Right.
Is there anything that I'm missing in that? Do we have some paracord line and things like that in case we need those?
Well, we have all that in there. We have extension cords, we have, power strips and things like that.
Yeah, we'll need some extension cords because we'll want to run from the just kind of those overhead outlets
Right.
to where the power supplies are.
Yeah, and power strips for the laptops.
Well, I guess we'll have to get an idea, Brian, of when would be convenient. I mean, I can stop over and sort so we know exactly what the bulk looks like. So,
Okay, so you and I want to work it offline?
sure,
you
but
come over?
I'm not going to be available to do anything like that for probably close to a week because I'm not supposed to be really doing anything for, lifting stuff and doing stuff like that. I mean, I can sit there and sort, I'm sure, but
So
yeah, let's get together, I guess.
So Brian, are you coming to the site on Saturday, and just need help with transporting, or are you not coming at all?
My plan was to come Saturday and part of Sunday. I will
Right.
not be able to be there at 9 o'clock on Sunday. But I can be there at 9 o'clock on Saturday.
So on Saturday, you need help with transporting because you can't carry it all, is what you're saying.
Yeah, my car won't hold it all.
Right.
And I
Okay.
don't know what we need. And you don't want to bring a lot of stuff you don't need.
Right. So if somebody can go and get with you and, offline and do the sorting, and then we can circle back either by email or on one of the upcoming nets to figure out the logistics of getting everything we need from your house, and running it up there on Saturday morning, I'm sure that's doable then.
I would suggest someone come before Saturday.
Oh, yeah, I
And-
agree. Yeah, I'll come before Saturday.
Okay,
But-
well, Monday and Tuesday are free for me.
Well, I
Um,
work, so it'd have to be on a weekend for me.
Well, that's,
I'm employed full-time.
Yeah, and you also are not, should not be lifting anything heavy for a while.
Well, I know that's the issue. I shouldn't be doing stuff like that for at least a week.
Right.
But can you maybe sort next weekend?
Well, are you
Oh.
around on the weekend, Brian, or not?
Sunday will work. Just not gonna.
All right, well, let me
Or
check.
Saturday. When's Saturday? I don't know, Saturday afternoon maybe, or Sunday.
Okay, well, let me check my calendar when I'll have to check my calendar and I'll give you a call.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
And then we'll sort it out, and then that'll determine the volume. Because we could just pull everything that we're gonna take with us and stack it separately from what's on the shelf.
right.
And then, once we know what we're taking with us, we'll have a volume and we'll know how much space we need
Correct,
to carry.
correct. And I know what we need, so we can knock that out, get the volume, and then enlist other help if we need it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
We just
Yeah.
need a plan to do it, that's all.
So the 2 meter stuff, the fiberglass pole and the vertical, Bob, is that at your house?
Yeah, the fiberglass poles and the Diamond X50 antenna is at my house.
That'll be good to have if we want to try some simplex contacts and also to be on the repeater. So now, Dennis, do you have your 2 meter, 70 centimeter Yagi? If we want to do some VHF work, sideband,
Yes, sir.
all right, that'll be good. And I was planning to bring my satellite rig. Not that it counts for the contest, but it might be fun to try to make some contacts.
yes.
It's true.
And Jeremy, you said you're bringing your QRP rig as well.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe doing like some FT8. It doesn't count for the contest, but if people want to see it in operation and practice it.
Well, once again, you can make some CW contacts or voice contacts under your call sign.
Well, I don't do CW and I'm not crazy about chasing after phone contacts with 5 watts. So I'd rather operate QRO.
Hey, it works. Jim, K3RTU and I go up to Ridley Creek with our low power rigs, and we make lots of good contacts.
Well, I'll have it. It's a possibility. If we have people competing for radios, I can always fire that up.
Well, I was thinking of bringing mine just to have as a spare.
Yeah, bring it.
The whole thing fits in a computer bag, including the antennas.
I mean, definitely bring it. I mean, QRO is in a sense easier, but certainly, I've learned from operating POTA. I operate at 100 watts, but a lot of guys they get through the pileups and then they tell me they're 5 watts, and it's all about it's all about your antenna really and the gods of propagation.
That is very true. Yeah, I've
Fred
had some
hunted
people-
me down when I was in Delaware yesterday. Got you in the log.
Okay.
Kilo
Well,
2
that
Hotel
won't take up
Alpha.
much room. All right, so then the plan is Jim and I will get together probably sometime next weekend, probably on Sunday. We'll figure out how much transport space we need. And we'll have to put out a call for transport.
Where do
I
you
only
live?
have I only have a small car. So it's, you take a couple of boxes. That's about it.
Where do you live, Brian?
Where do I live?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
I'm in Delaware County, off Concord Road.
Okay.
You know where Concord and Matson are?
Not really, but I mean,
You know where Concord and Smithbridge?
it can't be that far from me because I'm also in Delaware County, and Delaware County's not that big.
Yeah, he's actually very close to Aston, Aston.
Okay.
And Boothwyn.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a huge car either. And I am bringing some of my own equipment, but it all depends on who is going to be in the car with me. If it's just Chris, we can probably swing by and take some stuff. If Chris brings a friend, then I won't be able to fold the back seat down, and I might be a little bit more space limited. But let's see as the day gets closer.
Well, let's hope he can bring a friend. That'll get more people exposed to ham operating.
Well, that's exactly right.
So I would say getting youth there is a higher priority. You got enough people who hopefully will give us some car space. I haven't heard from from Jim, K3RTU lately. I'll give him a call and see what his plans are.
He's out there. I talked to him on the radio, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago.
Okay.
I talked to him this afternoon because I'm very radioactive.
Oh, there you go.
So is everybody who's on this Zoom chat going to be coming to the site?
So far,
Yep.
Yeah, at least Saturday anyway.
Okay.
WQ3Z will be making a cameo appearance.
Are you providing breakfast on Sunday?
Bob said
If
he was
not, I'll just have to stop at Wawa and get it on the way. Huh?
Bob said he was going to make omelets for all of us. He's going to get behind the grill.
Wawa it is.
Well, we may have leftovers from the first day. We can just leave them in the fridge, which is usually what ends up happening.
Yeah.
We can always play it by ear. If we need to order something out, we can do that.
Yeah,
so-
on Sunday, I can't be there until sometime between 10 and 11.
But you'll be around at the ends for the tear down.
I can hold services if you'd rather not bother. I can. It'll be an Orthodox Christian, but what the hell? And it'll be in Romanian too. So
Just tell us when we have to stand up and sit
That's
down.
right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, that
Oh,
lasts
you
4
noticed
hours, Lou. That's gonna take up a lot of time.
Yeah.
Jeremy, before we sign out, I fixed the website while we were talking. And I wiped out all of the Country Squire breakfasts. I don't know if we're going to maintain that or whatever, but I think we should all think about where do we think we're going, if we're going to advertise something or just wipe it from the calendar. Okay, so we'll just leave that as open for the board and for the members.
Okay. And for my end, the one thing that I see outstanding is we need to decide what to do with the sequence numbers. So maybe we will deal with that offline. I think we need to have a unified front on that, because I know we all had a couple of different ideas, and if we show up on the day of with different theories, that's going to lead to collisions.
Yeah. And I think it should be as simple a solution as possible.
We're simple folk. We need a
Well,
simple.
one simple solution is to have a separate log for every band. So even if you wanted to switch radios, switch laptops, that's why God made USB keys. Just take the log over to another machine and open it up. That's all. So we'll have one log for every band.
Yeah, and
Sequence numbers,
if you successfully get them networked, then
same thing almost, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it takes care of that. So
I think that's the way their networking work. I gotta look at, there's a different GUI and everything when it's networked together now.
I have a switch if you need it, Dennis.
Okay, well, I have one too, but
Okay,
report to see how the software is gonna run.
okay.
One way would just be to have, just have a file for each band, and if you change machines or whatever, you just clone it over and take off again. Just reload it. Takes 1 minute.
Yep, that sounds good.
I do like the idea of the now serving thing. We'll steal one from a deli.
My Acme never fires it up,
Yeah,
You ever see that scene in Beetlejuice where the guy's got, he's waiting to see somebody and the number's like up in the trillions,
yeah.
Yes, I think it'll be important to know if we could do gaps. So then if we could do blocks, that might make things eat per band.
Yeah, I don't see how that helps because you still need to know the end of the last block.
Right.
Yeah. But then that's all you need. It was one piece of information. Hey, what's the last contact on 80? Or just
Right.
start
That's all you ever need to know because then you're +1 from that.
Yeah. Or just pick a new number. I'll start from 16,000.
Well, actually, I was thinking about all this as kind of a modification of the Jeremy method. What we could do is blocks of 100, and we have 3x5 cards. And if you need a new block, you go pick up the next block with the next 100 series. If by chance you've got a run, you get to, 1199, you just, go get another block. Am I making myself clear? If you change bands, you get another block.
I think my financial advisor told me the same thing at the last meeting. Come to think of it.
So you're proposing a paper solution? Ugh.
When we have
But-
computers.
Again, Dennis is providing the network solution. I'm providing the backup.
Well, we need something that's EMP resistant.
So if we do have,
Hey,
if we
wait a
do
minute.
have,
My-
if we do
my
have
method
a,
is my method is EMP resistant.
so if we do have a non-ham who's there, or even if we have hams who are there who are not operating, we can use human beings to help make sure that we've successfully transitioned sequence numbers to sort of keep an eye on how the logging is going. I just think we should keep it really simple because the more complex we make it, the more likelihood that people are going to forget what the complex system is and they're going to mess it up.
Yeah. Yeah, we just need to decide what it's going to be, and then we can communicate out, this is what it is. Not you figure it out on your own.
One log, I think it should be one log per band. And the question is, do we implement that as one band per machine or USB drives or network solution? But one log per band makes it really easy.
Yeah. But we're going to have more bands than computers in all likelihood. So we have to decide how to divide those up.
Right. But if they're on USB drives, it doesn't matter because you're probably not going to be operating all of those bands at the same time.
Now, is it simple to extract the file onto a USB and put it into another computer?
Yes.
Okay, it is. So it's not like we're going to be digging around looking for files and doing conversions.
No, just tell the software to go out, File Explorer, click on it, and it loads up, and everything's fine from that point.
Okay, so as long as it's simple, that would probably make the most sense. So we'll have, I guess 80, 40, 20, and 15, then maybe 10 if it opens.
Maybe 6 if it opens.
maybe 6, maybe 160, possibly, if we can get it to tune up. And then maybe 2 meters if we have a couple. So that would be 8 potential bands.
And to be really honest, unless you're using, I mean, I would think that 160 you can paper log and type in you're going to make a handful of contacts on 160, I reckon. And on 2 meters, unless you've got cat control of those rigs on VHF and UHF, you're going to be typing them in separately anyway. So you could just log those on paper and type them in later.
If we're going to use any paper logs, we should have log sheets printed out in advance, not just grab a blank piece of paper. Because
I
then
agree
it's
with
on
that.
everybody to figure out what they want to put in. Do you put the time? Do you put the frequency? Something that has columns laid out and you enter each thing.
Well, I have both the ARRL logbooks, but I also have these, this template that's free on the internet. It's a PDF, and I can just print out a bunch of those.
Yeah, if you have a bunch of those, that would be a lot easier for people to log. Rather,
I'll just print out a quantity of those and stick them in a folder, because that's also, things go wrong, and sometimes laptops crash, or you get some other problem, and it's better to just have it if you need and not use it than need it and not have it.
To quote Burt Gummer, right? from Tremors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And this is specific to the PAQSO party, so it'll have the prompts for that exchange with the county sequence number.
The paper log sheets?
Yeah.
No. But we can. I mean, it won't take long to design a Microsoft Word table that contains those column headings and print that out. I could do that.
Okay, yeah, that would be helpful, because then it would be a prompt, so you know exactly what information you need from the station.
Yeah, could do that.
And maybe print out that slide with the information about the Nevada, South Dakota, all of that, because that could be confusing, knowing what information we need from those operators.
Well, we always need the same information. Right? But the point is they need different information from us.
Yeah, but it might be good to know what that is, because then if
Right.
it's in South Dakota, then right away, oh, okay, here's what you
Right.
need. As opposed to them having to pull our teeth out. Now I need your county, and I need your sequence number, and I need to
Right.
know what time of day you get up and what type of eggs you like.
All we ever need to know is the ARRL section, which for most states is just the state. Like South Dakota, it's just South Dakota is the section, right? They will need and we need them to give us a sequence. They don't need a sequence number from us, right?
Yeah.
But they will want to exchange. They will want to give us their county, because they have to. They have to give their county in their exchange.
Yeah. Well, it makes us look better too, though, because if we know exactly what they need, we can go back.
Exactly.
Yeah. We give it right to them, and we look good.
Give it right to them.
Yeah.
What was the name of that logging software we got?
N3 FJP. It's the same as the field day.
Yeah, and it's only $9 a pop.
But he's got like 50 different programs. So
Or you can buy a complete suite now for like $35. Give you access to
Question, let's go,
It says 60.
No, we got a special. I got an email from them. We're such good customers. We can buy the whole damn suite for $35.
question. Let's say we get one of these out-of-staters with using a different format. Will they have to submit, they're gonna submit to whatever their agency is that's doing their QSO party, but they're gonna have to submit separately to ours?
No, they don't have to submit for us to get credit for them, I don't think.
So
But-
it's just our word.
Yeah, the problem is if the other person submits and it doesn't match.
But is our assertion that we
Our-
made this contact sufficient?
Yes.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
actually better that they don't submit.
It's better they don't submit, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, not if you logged everything correctly then. But yeah, I take your point. But that's why you're certifying at the end during your upload that your log is correct to the best of your ability. It's correct and accurate, blah, 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 blah.
I'm not saying we're going to do anything inappropriate. I just want to know if we submit it and they don't, because it's an out-of-stater, do we get credit? Obviously, if it's an in-stater, we don't get credit if they don't.
No, you
submit.
get credit. Because not everybody submits logs. So the logs are used to check one another. So obviously, if I've logged Alpha 3 Bravo Kilo with the wrong sequence number, or I've put you down in Chester County instead of Montgomery County, where you're going to be for the QSO party, then neither of us are going to get credit for that contact. But if you didn't submit a log at all, I'm going to get credit for that. Why not?
Because I thought all the logs had to be verified. You're telling me all the logs don't have to be verified.
Well, they're verified, but if the other party doesn't log, I don't think you lose points if they don't log.
No, because you're always going to have some casual people who aren't logging. It probably looks bad if most of your contacts are not verified. So if I put in 200 contacts and they can't find any logs that verify them, that would probably look a little suspicious. But if I have 200 and there's like 5 or 10 of them, right, where the other party didn't submit a log, that would just be.
I just want to know what the rules are.
Yeah, no, I mean, fair. I'm going to double check that, but I'm pretty sure. So number one, I'm pretty sure that you're going to get credit for it. And number two, there's not really any way that any of us can control what other stations do. So we just have to go ahead and log what we hear and hope we got it right.
Correct. And the only issue is if they don't submit, do we get credit? And you're saying the answer you think is yes. That's fair.
Yeah, I do believe it is, but I'm gonna I'll look that up, but I'm pretty sure that we get credit for it.
Yeah, I think that's usually the case because you're always going to operate people who are not in the contest, just people you run into on HF or on 2 meters. And I think they expect that some percentage of your contacts won't be verified. But if it's all of them, I think that would look bad.
Again, I'm just asking what the rules are.
Yeah,
I have no intention of submitting false information. I'm doing this more for fun than I am for points. But I'll do what I can to get enough points for the club.
Here's the only thing the rule says about it. I'll read you the rule. Okay. The QSO Party Association will use the Cabrillo file to adjudicate and rescore the log to determine final results. QSOs will be checked for accurate sent and received QSO elements. QSOs that are determined to be bad after log checking will not be included in final scoring determination. A log may be disqualified for violation of amateur radio regulations, unsportsmanlike conduct, incorrect category selection, or an excessive number of bad contacts after log checking. So that tells me they're going to check your log against everybody else's log. And, there's obviously going to be some small percentage where it's going to not match anything because the other station didn't upload a log. But as long as that's not an excessive number of contacts, you should be fine.
Okay,
And you Brian, you may be right, and maybe you don't get any points for those, but you don't have a deduction for it unless, like as Jeremy said, you've got like some excessive percentage of unverifiable contacts. But if you have a handful of them, the worst thing that happens is that they're zeroed out.
okay, I think you answered my question.
All right, well, we are a little past 9 o'clock, so if there's anything else, ask now, or we will close down the meeting. And anything outstanding we'll deal with offline.
Move to adjourn?
Ned has a question.
No, Ned's applauding.
Ah, he's applauding.
And Ned will second the motion to adjourn.
All right, so moved.
So moved.
To adjourn carries.